What creates an immediate bond with somebody and deepens relationships and makes friendships or your intimate relationships come back to life is novelty. Novelty. That's the first thing I want to talk about today. Novelty. Doing new things with people. No duh, Brendon, earth-shattering. But actually, when you read any book on neuroscience, you see that novelty is always something that is so incredibly stressed that we need to create in our lives to keep things fresh. Because when they go stale, they die. To keep them fresh is how we grow them. So I bring in this one. I like to begin this one because, listen, as the world opens up, whether you feel like you can move on or you can't, or as we feel like we're venturing out into the world again, because some people have been locked down, I want to reference to you the importance of immediately thinking of any friends you have who you need to reconnect with, and you need to create a new experience with them. So write this down. Create new experience. I want you to go through your top 10 friend list or the top 5 people you like at work who you do want to develop a relationship with. How do you create a new experience with them? What's something new that you can do? Whether that is, hey, let's go out to a new restaurant together. You know how magic that can be in a relationship when you go out with your partner, your spouse, your intimate other, someone, you go to a new place. It's higher energy. It's a different level of awareness. When people are in novelty or novelty situations, their self-awareness goes up. Their mindfulness goes up. Biologically, we are literally built to be more attentive in new situations. And so if you actually think about some of your best friends, there was probably some new situations you went out and did. Maybe your best friends came from when you were a teenager or in your 20s. Well, you're experiencing life anew. There was a lot of change, right? There was some of your first time experiences doing this, going out, your new friends of adventure, your new friends, your new drinking buddies, your new friends at school, those new years, everything that was new, there was a vibrancy and there was a pop there. And I really believe a lot of people right now in their life, they feel like they're slogging through. We need to introduce novelty. What is something new? What's a new experience you could create? Now, let's talk about how do you take that to high performance level. You schedule the newness. See, some people never have any novelty with their friends in 5 years. And they're like, I don't know, I don't feel connected. I'm like, you ain't done nothing new in 10 years together. That's why the friendship is dying. You want to do something new on a regular basis. So I highly recommend, some of the closest friendship networks I've ever seen are groups of people who do a trip, a camping trip, a hiking trip, a biking trip. They're outdoors. They go do something once or twice a year. They get together for July 4th. They get together for New Year's. But there's a recurrence of them getting together, but they do something new each time. Those are some of the great, deep relationships. Now, I know some people go, but no, Brendon, my best friends, we just get together and we talk. We don't care if it's new or anything. I'm like, I bet you're talking about new things as you age. There's a novelty in conversation. When you have friends who you don't do anything new together, and most importantly, you don't talk about anything new together, that friendship doesn't deepen. So I learned that and I thought, oh, you know what I'm gonna be? I'm gonna be that guy that introduces new topics to my friends and asks them to talk about it. I introduce novelty in my communication pattern with friends just to see where it goes. Instead of talking about what's the weather today, I'll ask about something specific. I'll share, hey, I've been learning about this. What do you know about this? Or, hey, you know what? I've been hearing about that. Have you ever thought about that? Or I'll bring up a topic at a friend, there's like 4 or 5 people and they're all talking about the salsa and the guacamole. And I'll be like, wow, what's the next level of conversation here? What's something new we could talk about that we haven't talked about as friends? And I'll literally, if we ever hung out, we'll sit at a table and you'll hear me say, hey guys, I noticed we've never talked about X. And I'll just throw it out, I'm like, what do you guys think about that? And I'll just throw out a topic. I'll be like, hey guys, I noticed You know, you're all parents here. I've never heard like, what's 3 things to be a great parent? And just, I'll get the conversation going. I'll think, what have we not talked about before? And I'll just throw it in the mix, right? It's just like a communication hand grenade. I'm just gonna throw it in there and see where we go. I know this is so simple, but do you do that? Do you do that consistently? Are you scheduling time with friends to do new things? Do you ask them to bring new people into your mix? Most people live like this, no new people. And I'm like, new people, come on in. I'm just like it. And it's not because I'm an extrovert. It's because I wanted the quality of life where novelty was at play. My brain is always sparking. I get diversity of thought, meeting new people. I'm put in new situations, so I have to adapt and gain more self-awareness and social acuity. Putting myself in novel situations by inviting new people, going to new networking events, going to conferences. Now, I know this is where I lose everybody else, but you don't understand, Brendon, I'm an introvert. Yes, amazingly, after 20 years in personal development, I've actually met some introverts. On the Myers-Briggs, I'm right down the line between introvert and extrovert. You can't write 6 books without being a little bit of an introvert. So it's not, if you are blaming your style here, this is where we have to talk about personal development. When people only do their style and don't reach for the lifestyle and the goals they want, they begin to suffer. Well, I'm not like that. I know, but what you are probably like is going to be stuck. And sometimes, to experience a more extraordinary quality of life, we have to go beyond our own styles and our own strengths and put ourselves in novel situations that challenge us to learn and grow and interact. We got so used to, as a culture, especially in the Western, well, these are my strengths and this is my style, that we use those as justifications not to try new things. And that's why many people, when they have a new goal or a new dream, sabotage themselves. Well, I'm not like that. As you know, I want to be a writer. And I noticed the best-selling authors, they were going on media and doing appearances, and they had videos and things like that. And I didn't like this. Like, talking to a camera like this, insanely uncomfortable for me. Crazy. I had to learn to do it. I didn't go, well, I'm not like those writers that can talk in the media. I'm like, you know what? That's not a skill yet. I'm gonna get good at that. I'm gonna put myself in that situation. It'll be new, it'll be challenging, and I'm gonna have to rise up and learn how to do that. I didn't say, I'm like this kid that can't do these things. I said, do I wanna experience that? Then let me become more. Let me grow into that. I was very uncomfortable with people when I was younger, and so I had to put myself in situations that stretched me. Now, if you are introverted, like I was especially back then, you do those things, and then what do? You take time to recover. You can go out in the world and then come home and live inside and recover and then go out again when you're ready. That was me. I had I'm a guy, if I go to a party, I'm exhausted afterwards. Like because at that party, I'm just like, I'm vibing, I'm trying, you know? And then when I get home, I'm tired, I'm wiped out. But it doesn't mean I never do it, because it's not my style. So it's important for yourself. Right now, I really believe, some of you guys know I did a course with Oprah Winfrey Network, and Oprah named the course, because we were talking about what we were gonna do. And she named the course, it was called Reignite Your Life. If you are in a place and you want to reignite your life right now, write in all capital letters, novelty. And don't hope novelty lands on you. Schedule it, go do it, invite it in. And I promise things will get better. People always ask me, Brendon, what do leaders actually do? You know, maybe you're leading a team, or you're in charge of a large organization, or you're just trying to even lead your own life. I mean, what is it that leaders actually do? Many of you know this was my graduate school work. In 2001, I wrote a book called The Student Leadership Guide, and I never had any clue that thing would blow up the way that it has. And this framework for leadership, it's called E6, is from that book, and it's been used at, I think, 40 of the top 100 schools in the world, major corporations, corporations from around the world, major associations have called me in to speak on this topic because it's a great framework for leadership. It answers that question. What are the major practices of leadership that we must enact on a continual basis to be able to have the amount of influence and impact we desire in our work lives or in any role in which we're leading other people? So let's get right into it. The first E of these 6 E's is envision. Great leaders envision a compelling and different and vibrant future than what is here. They have an alternative, clear view of what the world could be like tomorrow than it is today, right? They have a shared purpose. They believe that they and others would be compelled by, interested in, inspired by, and want to work towards. And that's a big deal. And you always read about it in leadership, right? You have to have vision. I mean, it's biblical. Where there is no vision, people perish, right? We know the power of having that vision. So you have to sit down, though, and actually do it. The reason we say envision versus just have a vision is you have to sit. It's a practice of envisioning. What should tomorrow look like for my team? What should tomorrow be like for my business, for my organization? What should tomorrow be like for my life? And not just tomorrow, a long-term mindset and view. The dream, right? That magnificent obsession, that bold desire, the moonshot goals and purposes and missions of life, the bigger picture. That's envisioning a different reality in the future than we experience today. And that's what everybody gets excited about in leadership. Where there's no vision, there's no leadership. Where there's no vision, people perish. So you have to envision. And I say that these are 6 practices of leadership and not 6 steps, because it's not like you do envisioning once and then you move on in the process. We always have to continually sit down and envision, where are we? Where can we be going? It's an active process. If you set a vision one time and you forget about it, it's not gonna help you accomplish the influence or the impact you want in your lifetime or in those that you lead. The second E here is enlist. As you're developing this vision, it's not just your vision, you're enlisting other people to share their voices, their perspectives, their dreams, their desires for where you could be going. You know, I think that the most important leadership lesson in the world is that people support what they create. If people are involved in the ideation of a vision, they're involved in creating ideas, of brainstorming, of figuring out what is it we are about, what do we stand for, where are we going. Great leaders enlist that from other people. They're constantly asking people what they think, how they feel, what things they desire and need. And it's that enlistment that is always going on. A great leader is always enlisting other people to believe in the dream, to shape the dream, to stay dedicated to the dream. It's an honest and an authentic and a genuine desire to see other people be involved in the process and to enjoy that process. I mean, it's so vital. And that methodology of how do you get people involved in that? You're asking questions. You're paying attention to their needs. You're reflecting back to things that you're hearing. You're always enlisting others to support and to build this vision, this ideal future together. And the third thing that great leaders are always doing is embodying their message. They stand for something. There's a congruence between who they are, the behaviors that they're enacting into the world, how they treat people, what they're working towards, and what they say is important, right? It's just basic line, it's integrity. You know, it's a congruence between what we say we're after and how we are behaving. And there's nothing more important, is there? You know, it's that old message, it's like, you don't believe the message unless you believe the messenger. So as leaders, we have to stand for and demonstrate and show and portray what we are really believing in. I mean, is our team and the people around us seeing us work for it, sweat for it, sacrifice for it, champion it over and over and over again, even when it's hard, even when there's conflict, even when people are pissed, even when people want to quit? Are you still there? Do you still stand for it? If you do, you become a legend. Fourth, what we have to move on to is now empowering people. Empowerment means we give people the decision-making authority and the trust to be able to work towards this vision, to allow them the autonomy, the strength, the input, to equip them with the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the technologies, the tools, the training to allow them to succeed as they march with us to achieving something extraordinary and phenomenal. That's vital. That's what empowerment is about. And a lot of leaders who come in with a big vision, they get everyone excited, they seem like they want everybody involved, and they do a great job of standing for it, but they don't equip their teams to kick some butt. They never get to that place of real stride, of real momentum. And that happens all the time. Training other people and equipping them with everything they need to succeed has to be a vital practice of every great leader. And again, it doesn't happen just once. That's a huge failure in the working world, especially in corporate America. Great leaders come in, they nail the vision, they get people around it, they stand for something. But they only empower people at the beginning. They give some training and then they just disappear. Training has to be consistent, coaching has to be consistent, equipping people to deal with the new challenges, the new tools, the new technologies, the new competitive realities. That's vital. We have to have that in place, right? So we've been doing this practice. We envision a better future. We enlist other people to help shape that vision, to believe in that vision, to support that vision. We stand for something by embodying our own message. We empower other people to be able to support and to be able to win. Then we have to evaluate. It's one of the hardest things that we do in all of leadership, to evaluate the key people who are with us, their contributions, evaluate their skills, evaluate their needs, and to evaluate the ethics that are going on in our organization, in our team. Are we being excellent and are we being ethical? Is the questions that we're evaluating on, right? Are we being excellent and ethical as we are progressing? Which I guess would be the third question. Are we progressing? If not, why? Are we being ethical? If not, why? If our people are not being excellent, if not, why? These are the questions that we have to ask as this practice. And evaluation, it's like every day as a leader. You've got to keep your thumb on the pulse to see, hey, how are we doing? Are we alive? Are we moving forward? That evaluation also brings up the incredible challenge that we face as leaders, which is to give honest, direct, immediate, constructive feedback to those people who are trying to influence and lead. To our collaborators, to our friends, to our followers, whatever word that you use for them. I mean, it's vital. It's vital that we are paying attention and seeing when things are going off the rails, that we never check out. I mean, it's a consistent process of checking in and seeing how we're doing and paying attention to really evaluating the progress of our mission. And that final thing, that sixth thing, that thing that makes the magic, encourage. To encourage, to be the champion, to be the cheerleader, to be the person always motivating, inspiring, uplifting people, to never just have, a lot of leaders, they get their pet projects and they get excited about it and they disappear. No, man, you need to encourage on a continual basis. You need to light people up. You need to have it in your heart and in your soul, that desire to want to lift people up. To lift them up and to lift them off their butts, to get them excited about things, If you can't motivate them with your passion and your example, then what are we doing? You have to encourage people when this gets hard. When you're working towards a mission, it gets hard. Longer term, the more people involved, the bigger the organization, the bigger the vision, the bigger the dream, the longer the duration to accomplish it, the more struggle, the more challenge, the more conflict, the more discord, the more disappointment, the more frustration, the more doubt, the more delay. All those things happen. Leaders have to deal with them. And the way they have to deal with it is always being that encouraging voice. When the chips are down, when it looks most bleak, you're still that beam of light. And when it gets dark, when it gets challenging, when there's conflict and turmoil and turbulent seas, you're solid. You're somebody that they know they can go to because you're always going to turn a negative into a positive. You're always going to help them see the alternative view, the next step. You're going to champion people. You're going to champion the mission and the cause. That's leadership. That's the 6 E's of leadership. Envision, enlist, embody, empower, evaluate, and encourage. And I'll say what overlays all this is a philosophy about what we're doing. That it's important to us, that there's a purpose, there's a mission to it, that we feel that deeply within us is so powerful. And we honor, we respect, and we love those we work with. Last thought, I never use the word, I try to, maybe I use it in this video a little bit to give us context, but I try never to use the word follower. People aren't following you, they're actively engaged. They are collaborators. When you get people to collaborate with you in all areas of these 6 E's, you're building leaders, you're building collaborators within the organization, within the team, with those who you are serving, a magic happens. It's not just you, the leader, it's a group of us. We are a peer set of leaders. We are the movers and shakers who are shaping and making this mission happen every single day. We love to work together, we have fun, people are standing up. They now are helping come up with vision. They now are championing and cheering on, bringing in, enlisting other people. They now are doing they're standing for something. They're living that value and the truth. They now are empowering other people and championing the cause. They're your eyes and your ears evaluating how the organization, how the mission is going. They now are encouraging it so it doesn't just ride on your shoulders. When we do that right, then we have this thing called leadership. Today, in Growth Day, we are taking on the topic of handling conflict better. I know this is such an important topic because sometimes your relationships, they start falling apart. Sometimes some at work has you frustrated. Sometimes you find yourself getting an argument after argument. Sometimes you feel like hooked or triggered emotionally by what other people are doing. And you figure like, how do I handle this better? Because conflict and crises aren't going away, because building relationships are never easy. And so we have to ask the tough questions of how do we get better knowing that those things will always be there? How do we manage our internal state, our own personal development better so that we can be in the moment, be present, and solve things versus making them worse? Okay. My first teaching point today will cover the themes of almost everything else I'm going to teach today. So it's 3 simple phrases, okay? 3 simple phrases. If you ask me, Brendon, help me manage conflict better for the rest of my life, you get, 3 phrases. Here is what they are. First phrase is shared future mindset. When we enter conflicts, it's so often we get so myopic. We take things personally. And we just want to win. So we want to just crush and trounce the other person and debate them and make them look dumb because our ego wants to be right. And we forget we got to wake up with that person tomorrow morning. Maybe that's your spouse. We got to go to work with that person again tomorrow because it's Tuesday. We got to, see that person again in our neighborhood. That person who we're about to have a conflict with, they're probably going to be there again. And once we can realize, I'm entering a conflict. This is about to get, heated up. We're about to have some debate here, or you're already in it. If you can adopt the shared future mindset that, we're going to share a future together. I'm going to have to see her again. I'm going to have to work with this person again. I'm going to have to deal with this probably again and again through multiple more projects in the future. Everything will shift. You'll approach the conversation differently, more strategically, more thoughtfully when you keep the future in mind. Usually what happens in the moment of conflict, we just throw out the baby with the bathwater or whatever that phrase is. I don't even know. I still don't know. Why would you say that? But you understand what I'm saying? What happens is you just toss out the whole relationship because you're mad. And the ego goes into self-identity, disconnects from the other person and from the future, and just gets in fight and flight mode. From that place, we've already lost. So deciding and determining we're going to have a shared future mindset is important. And importantly, if we're talking about relationship or partner or spousal, conflict, somebody who you really love, if the two of you have in mind, a compelling future together, right? You have shared interests, shared goals, shared adventures coming up. If you can always ground your relationships in the reality that you're building something together, if that pre-exists, then moving into a conflict, you're more likely to resolve it more quickly and amicably, right? Research shows even just having a couple have a conversation about something they're interested in doing or something good coming up in their future before having them talk out a difficulty makes that difficulty or that conversation of conflict so much more smooth, so much more short, so much less accusatory. It changes everything. Grounding ourselves in the future, I think is important. Starting off the bat with relationships, thinking, I'll work with this person again. I'll see this person again. I'll care about this person again. It can change everything. It can really shift everything. The second phrase I would say here is respectful process. How many of you have ever been in a conversation, in a conflict, and you were just trying to be thoughtful and try to be calm, and the person you were dealing with was not respectful? All right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of hands raised here in the Zoom, at least as we're doing this. It's very, very frustrating. And soon as we lose respect in the conversation process, all is fair game in war. And so it's a very challenging thing. We have to go into conflict situations, but adopt this philosophy overall. I'm going to treat people with kindness and respect, even if they don't treat you that way. For those who don't know my background a little bit, this is a topic I really love because, if you don't know, my master's degree was in communication studies, and I focus mostly on leadership communication. And in that process, though, I got to do a lot of mediation, and including peer mediation. So I was mediating, students in college having conflicts. I was mediating, professors and students, administrators and professors, local community members and administrators. Like, my job was literally 2 people come in a room, they are in conflict, they cannot resolve it, they've already tried, they do not like each other, and here they are. I even did some court referred mediation, which in like a divorce case, they'd bring in the couple and I'd have to work with them. And mind you, I'm in my early 20s. And it was such a great training ground. I mean, for 2 years, I just got to see how terribly disrespectful people can be toward each other, even when they both want to solve it. And a big part of mediation was teaching people in advance of a conversation that this process, we were going to keep respectful, that the expectation was that this is going to be a respectful conversation, because otherwise we couldn't solve it. And they already usually knew that. I've done a lot of coaching, as you know, over the last 15 years. I'm a certified high performance coach. And over these 15 years doing it full time every single week, a lot of times I'm dealing with conflict situations and couples, or conflict situations between co-founders. And soon as it devolves into disrespect, it is 10 times harder to pull it back. It is so much more difficult. And so you'll hear me talk about how you can maintain that respectful stance with your partner or the person you're having conflict with, but also know that the expectation has to be had in advance of the conversation. Sometimes you react in the heat of the moment without stepping back and setting the frame for the conversation. As simple as, if you feel hooked or triggered, saying, could we talk about this in like 30 minutes in a much more calm way? I just need to go reset. And coming back with the expectation and the conversation. Let's try this again. I want to be more respectful with you. I know that we love and care for each other, or I know that we need to work together, or I know that it hasn't been easy. So let's try this again. Let's try to do this with kindness and care for another, and we can solve this together. I know we can. A simple reset into the frame of respect can change the outcome as well. And the third phrase, so the first phrase was shared future mindset. The last phrase was respectful process. The third one is empathy and encouragement. Now, we all know about empathy, right? We all know we're supposed to listen, understand, feel, sense their thoughts and feelings. We're supposed to reflect back how they're feeling and what they're going through. We're supposed to validate, maybe not their beliefs, but validate them as a person. We're supposed to really feel their pain or walk in their shoes. You've heard these phrases before, right? Empathy, people know they should do that. But in conflict, common sense is not always common practice. And that's why we really wreck relationships. And empathy is one of those. Being an empathetic listener, we'll talk about how, is so important. But notice the phrase, empathy and encouragement. Do you know what in conflict also goes out the window? I said earlier, what goes out the window? Well, shared relationship and the future. Well, the ego also can't see and validate and praise the other person, which is exactly what they need. We forget because we're hooked or we're upset or we disagree that the other person is, if you're a spiritual person, a child of God, or the other person, has extraordinary potential, or the other person has been through a lot in their life, or the other person is struggling. And we forget that people actually need a lot of encouragement. And I know being in GrowthDay, you tend to be the person who is more encouraging in your relationships. We know that from our research. You tend to be the person who's usually more of the optimist or more of the leader position, that you're the person who's supportive of others, more kind of others, and yes, more encouraging of others. But we forget that when we're angry. Who's guilty? Okay, a few of us. Think about the last argument you had with somebody. Did you praise them? Did you encourage them to share? Did you say a kind word? Did you appreciate something about them? Most people don't. They're on the attack. They're on the offensive. They think they are at war and they must win at all costs. That's the ego. That's narcissism. That's sociopathy. You know what it is it's saying, I must destroy this person because it's a zero-sum game. Either they're evil and I'm good, or I'm right and they are wrong, and there is no in between. And what that does is it objectifies the other person into the category of darkness and bad versus recognizing human frailty, human suffering. It strips us away from that common humanity. And if we let that happen with every conflict situation, no wonder we live in a divisive world where it's accusatory, where it's blaming, where it's the worst assumption about the other person. When in reality, what we really need to do is remember the human struggle, remember their humanity. I know you all know this being GrowthDay members, but an encouraging word to somebody at the right time can change their lives. Let me ask this to you. Do you believe that it is true that some point in your life, somebody gave you some encouragement, maybe some praise, validation, respect, appreciation, honor? They kind of told you were capable and it changed your life. Did that ever happen for anybody here? Ever? When someone encourages you, it changes your life. Well, then can't you get to the logical conclusion that if you encourage somebody in a conflict situation, it could change the tone and outcome of the conflict? If a simple piece of encouragement can change someone's life, couldn't a simple piece of encouragement change the outcome of conflict? Boom, everything changes. The second you get that, like, whoa, encouraging another person in conflict could change the outcome, make them feel respected, make them believe in themselves, make them feel honored, make them feel appreciated, make them feel heard, make them feel validated in some way, even if at the content or topic level you disagree. This changes everything. When you can encourage another human and still debate a topic, now you're a mature adult. Before that, you're screwed. Forgive my language. Before that, You're locked into unconscious immaturity. And I don't say that flippantly. We've all been there. We've all lost our stuff in a conflict situation. We've all said things we regret. I'll remind you, no one here is trying to be perfect in Growth Day. Our job is to prompt you with new ideas, new phrases, new mindset, new ways of thinking about things. But just think about this. The next time you're going to go have a strong or difficult or conflictual conversation with your partner or your spouse or someone you're in relationship with intimately, imagine if you just said, okay, we have a shared future together. I'm going to respect him or her in this process. And I'm going to make sure I encourage them a little bit. If you did those three things, if you entered it from those three frames, a very different energy happens in that relationship, a very different one. So a lot of these themes are going to come up. That was literally my first point. So all of that was my first point, which is the three primary phrases: shared future mindset, making sure we have a respectful process, and encouraging other. This will change everything. Hey y'all, it's Brendon, and in this episode, we're gonna talk about something that came up way more often than I ever imagined after we launched our study of high performers worldwide. And as much as I've taught people how to succeed and taught them to master their mindset, taught them the habits that we know literally lead to long-term success, I cannot believe the number of people who wrote in or asked throughout this year, this last 12 months, like, hey, Brendon, like, I know what to do, but I kind of suffer sometimes from imposter syndrome. You know, I feel like I'm going through the motions, but I don't feel like I'm, worth it, or I don't feel like I can see myself succeeding like other people did. I feel like I'm faking it sometime. Like, what do you do if you ever deal with imposter syndrome? And amazingly, I love to share with people, that was kind of part of the story that one of the persons who I interviewed for High Performance Habits, which I hope you guys all have, there's a link in this post where you can get a free hardcover copy, that this woman was dealing with, where she felt like she just couldn't really break through, and she knew achievement wasn't her problem, but alignment was her problem. She knew how to get stuff done, but she really wasn't getting stuff done in an alignment with her true character, her true beliefs, her true values, the things that really lit her up and made her happy and succeeding. She kind of felt like she was going through the motions sometimes, or copying other people. And that imposter syndrome also sometimes made her not feel confident enough to put herself out there, because she thought, who am I? Or I can't compare with them. Or that imposter syndrome really sort of bled into her work, where she felt like, well, you know what? This isn't gonna work for me. I don't really belong here. And so if you ever felt any of that, this is the episode for you. I've got some notes here. I've been thinking about this quite a bit as we head into this time of year, where a lot of people are looking back to this year, last 12 months. And I'd like to ask you, do you feel like you really lived your most authentic, vibrant, true, passionate, productive you? Do you feel like sometimes you were faking it till you made it? Do you feel like sometimes you just didn't belong? Even if you were successful or you're doing good things, you felt like, well, I'm not like them. I don't really belong here. If that's true for you, then I'd really love for you to take some notes on this episode. I'm trying to change up how we're doing these, kind of get in your face a little bit more, do a little bit more coaching as you guys have been requesting. Obviously, we have products and programs for that. Those links are also in this post somewhere, but I felt like just taking on this imposter syndrome for you. And it was a struggle. I had to take some notes, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I ever felt it the way that most people talk to me about it. And partially that was because I was young, dumb, and naive when I began in this industry. Right, in this industry, if you're watching me on YouTube or later on Facebook or somewhere else out there on the interwebs, you know that it's a fairly young industry. I started doing major online courses and development in terms of like personal and professional development online, and teaching that as far back as 2006, which was really early. You gotta remember, that's like before the iPhone, right? That was a long time ago. That was when most people would like cancel something or refund something that I gave them, not because of the quality, but because the buffer speed on the video is really big. So I kind of lucked out to begin in this industry
when it was like the Wild West. There weren't many of us, I was like one of the pioneers in personal online courses, like personal development online courses, like way early. So I didn't enter an industry where there were a lot of super established people outside of there were major authors, there were some major, motivational speakers, there were some people who were doing seminars, but social media wasn't there yet. And this whole world where we have influencers all over Instagram now, all day long, you can swipe through them. I didn't feel like I was competing with them. So I know that might sound like big-headed to say I didn't feel imposter syndrome, but I just didn't because I began something that was really fresh. I also had the benefit of being naive enough to just do my own thing without really, at the very beginning, seeking out other role models and mentors. I didn't really, I didn't have a peer set. I started this industry, I started with nothing. I was bankrupt. So I wasn't around other people where I could compare myself all day and ask whether I belonged. I just had this passion, and I was just gonna give everything into this passion and not worry about what other people thought and not worry even about how I felt. I was just gonna do the hard work, show up, and make it happen. And so that might be part of my message to you today. If you have that imposter syndrome, stop worrying about whether you belong. I always tell millennials, especially a lot of folks who I get to coach at that age, successful entrepreneurs and startup founders in Silicon Valley especially, I tell them, hey, listen, stop asking whether or not you belong and start asking whether or not you're being of service. Part of the imposter syndrome comes from the selfie syndrome. Just thinking about myself. Am I right? Do I really fit in? Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? And it's I worry. It's from this selfie generation where we're all taking pictures of ourselves and thinking about how we portray ourselves all the time and how do I portray myself? Does it fit in with everything else? And because it doesn't, I don't feel like I belong. Part of it's stop asking if you belong, start asking if you're being of absolute service every day. Because if you feel like you're being absolute service every day, you're not gonna worry whether you fit in as much, you're gonna worry whether you're getting the job done. Right? You're gonna worry whether or not you're actually contributing value. Because I think one part of the imposter syndrome is that people don't feel like they're adding value, and if they're really honest, they know they're not. And because they're not adding value, they feel like, gosh, this isn't right for me, or I'm faking it, and the fact is they are. So let's talk about 4 ways to deal with this. Number 1, if you have the imposter syndrome and it's firing off and you don't feel like you belong, or you feel like you're faking it and you don't deserve it, or you're not worthy, well then job number 1 is stop faking it. Start asking, how can you do what you're doing in a way that you feel like is authentic, real, and adding real value the way that you would do it. Stop trying to do it the way everyone else is doing, because that's what faking it ultimately is. It's you're just conforming and you're copying and you're doing what other people what they're doing, and no wonder you feel like crap. Because if you show up every day and you live like a copy, you're never gonna feel that vibrancy comes from personal freedom, that comes from personal authenticity, that comes from knowing this day is mine. Because if you live each day as another person, you never get that gift of this day's mine. I got it. This is real for me. And so of course you feel like a fake and a phony, because you're showing up running everybody else's playbook, trying to fit into everybody else's thing. And I'm here to tell you, listen, I know I'm being a little hard sometimes in my videos, but I'm here to, I do that because I'm cheering you on. I know that no matter who you are and where you're watching this or when you're listening to this, I know this about you. You've got a bottomless level of potential. You have the ability to figure things out and live life on your terms and add a level of value into the world that I can't do, that anybody else you follow, watch, they can't do, because they're not you. They haven't lived uniquely in your shoes. They haven't studied what you study, or observed what you have observed, or dealt with everything that you've dealt with, or had the same exact aspirations and dreams. There's 7 billion people on the planet. We're all unique. And so you've got to say, okay, if I feel like imposter here, what would my truth be in this space? What would, if I stepped away and I just, what would be real for me to do? Your job 1 is to stop faking it, stop conforming, stop copying, and say, how would I do this and add a unique value that I'm passionate about. And that helps immediately break some of that imposter syndrome. Number 2, if you feel like you are experiencing imposter syndrome, number 2 is stop avoiding difficulties. What happens is because you don't feel like you belong, or you don't feel like it's real for you, or you don't deserve that level of success, you back off, and your primary strategy is avoidance. You start avoiding those difficult tasks each day that actually give you momentum and progress towards the thing so you can feel it and integrate it and know it is you, right? You're not getting that momentum forward on the things that matter, so you're not getting that identity that says, wow, this is me, I am making this happen. Instead, you're observing it and you're avoiding it. And so as you see people do great things or you avoid the difficult hardships, your psychology starts saying, hey, you're full of crap. You're not even trying. You're not even doing it. You know what? Yeah, you showed up here, but you're just going through the motions and you're not taking on the tough stuff. And here's a weird thing. If you're not getting momentum, you won't have the mindset of authenticity. Like if you're just kind of like kicking tires or dipping your toe in the water, your brain goes, I'm fake. This isn't real. You'll always feel like an imposter if you don't get real momentum. When you get real momentum, your brain goes, hey, this is us. We're doing this. This is real. And the identity of an achiever in that space that you are in, like starts firing, and now it starts feeling real. You're like, wow, I got this. I'm doing this. This is good. And the imposter syndrome starts going away. The third big idea to help you do exactly that and to deal with imposter syndrome is to work daily goals. You cannot keep showing up random to so many days of your life because in reaction, we feel smaller. In reaction, we feel constrained and constricted by the world. We feel like things are unfair. In reaction, we're less motivated. In reaction, we won't break through. So you gotta have goals built out that you're moving towards that does give you that identity of achievement and that identity of realness that says, hey, I'm doing this. And so here's what I need you to do. I need you to look at the next 12 months and I need you to set at least 5 big goals for this next year. Then I want you to break each of those 5 goals down into 5 different deadlines for each quarter. Meaning like if you've got one goal for the year, I want you to set down a deadline for quarter 4, quarter 3, quarter 2, quarter 1. So that today, as you go out these next 12 months, as an example, you go, okay, in quarter 1, I'm gonna achieve this deadline that's gonna help me move towards this goal by the end of the year. Quarter 2, I'm gonna achieve this deadline that will help me move even closer. Quarter 3, even closer. Quarter 4, we've achieved it. Make sense? So you're busting down quarterly goals or quarterly deadlines. Then you're saying, okay, what does that mean? What are the major activities I need to do each week leading into that? And then each day leading to that. Just work it backwards, my friend. Because you know when you don't have confidence, when you don't have clarity. So if you're like, I wanna do it, and I'm kind of doing it, and things are going okay, but I still feel like it's not real for me, and I don't like it. Partially, the reason is you just don't know what to do. And when we don't know what to do, when we lack competence, we also lack confidence, right? We're always talking about this in my high performance work. Hopefully you read this in High Performance Habits. It's that issue of the competence-confidence loop. And we're not gonna get you more competent if you don't try new things, which requires confidence. And if you try new things, you learn more, which gives you confidence. So it's this loop, right? And I think it's really important that you understand if you're not working goals every day, if you're just reacting and doing tasks, fulfilling everybody else's needs, that's gonna eat away. Even if you have a lot of success, even if you're doing great. And that's where I really tell people, you know when the imposter syndrome really sucks is when you're actually getting ahead, you are doing good things, like things are happening, but you still don't feel like you're worthwhile. And that's happening because you're not celebrating those goals along the way. You're doing everything, but you're never ever feeling everything. So it's not like the wins aren't being integrated into your identity to make you feel like, oh, this is real. I deserve this because I looked at what was forward, I measured it, I broke it down, I judiciously, conscientiously moved forward. Like if we don't know that we are like conscientiously, with real discipline, moving forward and gaining momentum because we chose it, we willed it, then it's easy to look around and go, yeah, I'm with these other people, but I don't feel like I belong because they must have really earned it and I just kind of lucked into it. Because if you feel you lucked into it, that imposter syndrome will always be there. Listen, I feel deeply grateful that I've achieved the level of successes that I've wanted in my life and with my books or my courses or everything else, and I'm still learning, but I can be deeply grateful, but know that I earned this path, that I honored every single struggle, that I architected it out, that I built the strategies, that lots of failings happened and grace opened up and I got, blessings and benefits. Yeah, there's some luck peppered in there too, but also I showed up every single day and I decided what I was gonna do that day. And because I did that, I decided it, and I stayed disciplined, I don't feel fake. I don't feel like I'm an imposter. I'm like, I earned my way into this spot. And sometimes I wish that, the spot was more abundant, more amazing, more awesome, more connected, just like anybody else, but I don't question the work that went into it. Yeah, sometimes I wish I was further along, just like anybody else, but I can go, you know what? I earned my way into this position. And if you can't say you earned it, of course you feel like an imposter. Fourth big idea, and this is really important, it's so simple, to help overcome that feeling of the imposter thing, part of the feeling of the imposter thing is you don't feel the outcome of your work. And so I want you to start visualizing and meditating on the actual outcome of your contributions. So as an example, if you're a new team member of a new company and you're just like, gosh, I don't really belong here, I don't feel like I'm here, I want you to stop. Every time you feel that imposter syndrome come in, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize yourself doing something, and I want you to visualize yourself experiencing, celebrating, seeing, sensing the outcome of the thing. For example, like for me, I began my career writing books and doing seminars. And I remember being with a group of speakers one time, and they had really they'd done a bunch of seminars and they were really along the way, and I'd only done one or two and I didn't do them well. I went broke doing them. I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought, oh my gosh, do I belong with these guys? Like, can I play at their level in the seminar game? And I remember that doubt coming in, and I remember specifically, I talked with a bunch of them and we were all in this big hotel ballroom. I went over, I got in the hotel elevator and I closed my eyes and I just said, Brendon, just see it, man. And I forced myself to see myself standing in front of 1,000 people in a hotel ballroom for multiple days and just teaching and training and coaching and interacting and having fun and jumping and clapping. And I was like, how would that feel? And I allowed myself to feel it. And what would it look like? And I'd get little details. And I went up, it was maybe 10 floors in that building. And I'll tell you what, from the doubtful kid who entered on floor 0 to the kid who walked out on 10th floor, I felt like 1,000 feet high. I felt so good, because I felt it. And so much of the imposter syndrome is you're just kind of analytically questioning yourself, and you're digging yourself in a hole, and you're doubting yourself, and you're letting your own thoughts poison you versus fuel you. And there's a visualization or a meditation that could be your savior, and that is just anytime you feel it, take a break. Go lay down or sit down, close your eyes, see it, feel it, sense it, and make it more real. Because the reason you feel like you're an imposter is because it feels fake. So make yourself physically feel and see the outcome of your good works. That might be if you're gonna start a new nonprofit, see and experience yourself okay, you're building that school, and okay, you're opening the doors and the kids are going in and they're getting their first books, and you built a school. Of course you feel like a fake when you start a nonprofit because you don't know what you're doing. But if you do these things, you've asked how you authentically can do it. You don't avoid the difficult work, you work daily goals, and you constantly keep visualizing and feeling it, visualizing and feeling it. I promise you, my friend, do these things and you'll stop feeling as much of an imposter and you'll start getting real momentum. I keep saying it, you are stronger than you think, and the future holds good things for you. So trust in yourself, honor the struggle, get to work, my friends. These next 12 months, they're yours. Now I want to share with you what I call the ladder of perception. It's just a way of understanding how your mind works.
So often we go through the day, something happens and it turns us into a bad mood. And for the rest of the day, we're kind of wrecked and ruined and upset and frustrated. And it's not until we go home, have 5 glasses of wine that we finally chill out, right? So what can you do in the middle of the day to get yourself back? It's just helping you understand, well, how do your thoughts work? How is it that you're getting into these times in your life where you're just emotionally so upset or so frustrated, or you feel like you're just not in control? And how can we use that same reasoning to figure out how can you shape a more positive mindset? Because we all want to feel better, right? We want to have more positive thoughts. It's just hard when the day is crazy. We all want to have a lot more buoyancy and vibrancy and pop to our life, but it's hard when we keep taking in so much information that's not always positive, right? So this is going to be a way to explain how to get you in a better mindset. And it all begins with this first part. The first thing that happens to shape your way you think is you get some information, right? Super basic, I know, but hold with me for a second. Sometimes we don't realize how much information is coming in that is turning us into a negative person. And sometimes information happens and we grab hold of it and make it more than it is. I mean, has anyone said to you in the last couple months, hey, it's not a big deal, calm down? If they had, it's because there's this information coming in and you're grabbing it in a specific way that's turning your mind towards negativity. And I know this sounds very, very basic, but I promise we have to start with what's coming in, right? It's just that old saying, garbage in and garbage out. So what I tell people, if you want to have a healthy mind, first and foremost, pay attention to the information that is coming in. What are you consuming? What are you looking at? What are you watching? What are you reading? Who are the people who are around you? All of that is shaping your mind, which I know you already know. Here's the question. When's the last time you did sort of an assessment or an analysis of the people and the information coming in? Like, what blogs are you reading a lot? What do most of your emails seem to say? Who are the people who are around you? What's the emotion and the energy and the information they're giving you? I know this sounds really crazy, but I am so controlling of that in my life. I don't have a lot of negative people who are always giving me negative information. I don't consume very much media at all. I don't watch horror films, or I don't consume a lot of information that just tends towards the negative at all. Not because I'm Pollyannish, because I understand how it's going to affect me long term. So pay attention to the information you have coming in. Second, as the ladder goes up, well, we get the information and then we interpret it one way or another. This is where obviously we know we see something, some information comes in, we interpret it as bad or good, positive, negative, something I need to interact with and react to or not. The challenge is most people take little pieces of information and they blow it up and they interpret it to mean something very personal and very negative. If you're in a place where you feel like you have a lot of arguments and fights, it's rarely about what's coming in, because we all deal with negative information or bad things, or the day gets interrupted. It's how do you interpret it? Then as we move up, we move to identity, right? This is, what did I see? What does it mean, positive or negative? Then it says, what does this mean about me specifically, right? And this is where people take things very, very, very personal. You know, someone comes in to work and says, well, I have some bad news. We're gonna have to let some people go today. And then they interpret it, oh my God, this company's gonna fail. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to quit. Oh my gosh, I might get fired. Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen in the future? And then identity. Here it is again. I failed again. Here it is again. I never seem to get good things from me. Here it is again. I just don't seem like I'm deserving of anything. And people take things at a personal level into their identity over a period of time. Now you can see how this ladder is building, because negative information can come in, you interpret it negatively, and then you take it personally negatively. And this is what happens to people. They don't realize little simple things. Someone cuts you off in traffic. How do you interpret that? See, when someone cuts me off in traffic, I go, oh, well, they didn't see me. Or, they were trying to get ahead here. Other people, you know what they do. They're like, that son of a, and they get completely angry. They completely freak out. They say, all drivers are horrible. I hate this commute. This sucks. And then they say to themselves, they take it so personally, they say, you know what, I'm gonna get back at this person. I'm not gonna be wronged. I'm not gonna be disrespected. So they speed in front of them and cut them off, because they took someone passing in front of them to be what? Disrespect to who they are. Because they're a person who always feels disrespected. And if you always feel disrespected, what are your thoughts going to be like? So you see how all this is starting to build to how you feel, and then it shapes what you intend in the world. What are you going to do, right? Your mind is all focused towards this one simple set of questions. It's, what does all this information mean? How do I need to interpret it? Pay attention to it, not pay attention to it. Important, not important. Good, bad. Then we take it to us. What does this mean to me personally? What does it say about me as a human? What am I dealing with here? And then it ultimately shapes our intentions. So the next time you find yourself in emotional craziness, or you feel really upset, or you're saying, I don't know why I'm thinking this way, you can step it back. What did I hear? How did I interpret that? What did it mean to me? What do I intend to do? Because all of that led to what you ultimately do, the initiative that you take in the world, right? What you're actually going to be doing. So here's the payoff. When you're doing things that you are not proud of, when you are doing things that you think like, I don't understand why I'm not taking more action. I don't understand why I keep beating myself up. I don't understand why I keep getting in fights with the people that I love. I don't understand why I can't stay more persistent towards my goals. If that ever happens, just take a pause and go, you know what? I need to think about what is happening here. Because it's the way that you're perceiving in the world that is controlling how much you progress in the world, right? And a lot of people, when they're having negative behavior, they just think it's happening to them. And I say, oh, let's just step it back. Okay, you were mean to your husband, okay? You found like you were really short with them. Where did that come from? And then we can just step it back. How are you feeling about yourself in that circumstance or that situation that led this way? What happened? What did your husband do? What did he not do? And how did you interpret it? And ultimately, what did you see or not see and experience? I know it sounds so basic, but try it. If you can work this through on a couple of different examples from your recent past, just think about those times when you really struggled or you didn't feel good, go through this, write it down, journal it, and you'll start to feel a lot more understanding about who you are and how your mind works.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.